welcome. It's Therapeutic Thursday. I try to be consistent to be here every Thursday. Sometimes it just doesn't happen. But here we are. Today, it is Thursday, and we're going to do something I consider therapeutic, which is drawing mandalas. I pulled a card earlier in this week about with the Prism deck and everything like that I have, but we're going to go with this one. And it's a pink card, and it just says love. And it's this concept of just the simplest of things, which is just love, right? Love and how it manifests in your life, where it shows up, things like that. So that's what we're going with. We're going to go with this concept of love. It's so simple, right? Everybody loves something. Everybody has love in their life in some way, shape, or form. So it's not always the most clear-cut thing, right? Like, it's not just a specifically romantic love. It's not necessarily, it could be anything. It could be the love of a family member, of pets, of anybody. So what we're going to do is just let that be something that just we sit with, right? And you can let this be kind of like a journal prompt. If you're not into drawing, you could just use this as something to say like, hey, what kind of love do I have in my life? What kind of love am I trying to cultivate? Like, how can I appreciate and maybe just kind of work with, right? Rather than against, or the kind of longing for. Notice what love you already have in your life. And we're going to let that be our kind of our theme of the night and of this concept. And I think that's the most therapeutic thing in the world, is to think about love and what love is in your life. So we're going to use that to go forward. So I have my inspiration, which is specifically this card that says love on it. And I think I'm going to try to use this concept to make this a mandala, and then have it be kind of like spreading out. And I usually make a square, almost always. But in this instance, I'm actually going to keep the rectangle look, and we're going to play with that tonight. So let's start right in with just taking a look at the card, kind of taking stock of what it represents, and also just kind of what it makes you feel. I'm seeing patterns within it, but I also just take it as it is, right? It's a pink card, which when in the colors, it's usually, pink or green usually represent the heart chakra. So, of course, that's usually associating with love. And it's just that simple. We don't have to make it more complicated, and we won't. So here's our piece of paper, which also happens to be pink. It's a light pink. I grabbed it from my stack of papers, and we're going to go ahead and we're going to find the center of this paper. And I'm going to use that method with my compass. I'm spreading it out here. The locking mechanism of the compass. I haven't used that in a while. All right, so to do that, we're going to find the center by going to the corner of the paper. You're going to put your point down on it. Actually, I'll do it this way. I need a longer ruler if I'm going to do it that way. All right, let's do it the way I was just saying. So let's do the point goes in the corner here, kind of holding the paper down, and then you open it to about as wide as you can, to somewhere where you think the middle is, right? And then you're going to draw a little arc. And then you're going to do the same thing on the other side. And where it crosses, that's where we're going to play with that. We'll do the same thing on the bottom, so you have a nice straight line. Sometimes it's hard to get that little corner piece. There's that. So we'll have our vertical line. the same thing with this. It's weird for me to look at it not being a square. I so often use this method, and I do it with squares, so I'm trying to see if this should work. I'll open it up a little bit more so I can get that arc there. And that's what we're playing with tonight. If this is just time for you to sit and notice your breath, sit and notice how you're feeling in the moment, how does your breath feel in your body, that's always a good indicator to start. That's what mindful art and art therapy ends up being for me, is kind of feeling what I'm feeling in the moment, and especially if I'm working with something like love, it's also a noticing of what the themes, like what arises when we think and talk about these types of things. So there's that, and there's that, that. And so there should be the center of my paper. And since I'm going to play with it long ways, I'm going to already turn it that way, since that's the way I want to work with it. And I'll go ahead and erase some of those excess marks we made because we no longer need them. And this becomes part of the practice, right? Taking your time, not rushing, not trying to get this done. I'm excited that I get to do this. Like, this is something I get to do tonight. Something creative, something that's an outlet. We're so busy consuming all the time that it's good to just sit and notice, what can we put back out, right? How can you use the energy that you consume constantly to then put back out, right? To balance. So there is our paper with our center. And if I'm using this as my kind of inspiration, I'm probably going to make the heart a little bit bigger. Start there and then go with the lines going out. So let's see. First thing I want to do is create that kind of Vesica Pisces in the middle, which would be the two circles right next to each other that slightly intersect. So how do we find that? We find the middle, and then we're going to draw a circle, split it probably in half, find that, draw another circle. Okay. So let's start with our first circle right there in the middle. And if I want this heart to be, let's say roughly, let's see, probably maybe even just a little bit bigger than that. There we go. There we go. So that's the first circle we draw. We put that right in the middle. And then I want to draw two circles on either side of this. And I think the best way to find that would be to go over here and draw a second circle. And then over here and draw another circle so that it creates this intersection. And I think if we did something like that here to down to there, this here down to there, I think we'll have something there. So I'll make the heart right there in the middle by imagine like this goes up and around, and then when it comes down through here, it starts to curve into this, right? So we're going to create the heart that way. I think that'll look really nice. So with that as a mock idea, How do we get that just right? Let's see. Well, I'm going to want a triangle here, here, and here. But what point is that? Well, let's see. If I want it to be around that size, I want a circle that big. So then what I should do, is go to this size. So now we're going for the whole size of the circle. That's what we're going to go with. And so at that point, I'm going to draw a mark right there. And then I'm going to draw my triangle there. So I want to find the point maybe where those two, no, I want to find that point. So what I want to do is get this to go, I want my diagonals, right? And then I want to be able to make my kind of bigger triangle. So let's see if we can figure that out. I love taking my time and seeing what comes up as I draw. So if I mark there, there, I'll have the spot. All right, so there and there. And so I want there, there. And let me see if that's what I'm looking for. I think it is. Yes, it is. All right, so if I create those two intersections, I should have a mark there and a mark there. Should create that. The same thing here. I'm not doing too much talking because I want to see if this is what I'm looking for right now. Okay, so now we're playing with that. There's the diagonal that we were looking for. So by doing that, what you're doing is you make the first circle, and then you start to make the flower of life, the seed of life, by going and putting the compass point there and making your second circle. But we don't have to fully make the whole thing, right? Because we're going to be erasing a lot of the middle anyway. So play with that first. So there's that diagonal. And then I want to find what's going to bring it to here. I think we need to find, this is what I'm looking for, where this meets would give me that mark. Okay. That's the mark I want to play with. Not this one. Get my line back. All right. So now we have the essence of our heart. So now you can see it's going to start here, go in, go around, and once it gets to here, we're going to start to curve it towards that point. And that'll be the idea here, about halfway through. So then we're going to make our triangle, which will be where these two spots meet. Here, here. But we want to go all the way to the ends. So what's the best way to do that? I guess just line it up, right? See, I'm just thinking out loud here, because if I get this to the edges and then get my triangle. That's where I really want it. So up and down, that looks good. So to there, I make that. Right, like that. There we go. Now I'm getting the idea here. This will give us that perfect. Now I can do my line straight across to the edge of those lines and then connect from that point to this point. And you don't want to go through the circle because you're not going to be utilizing that. So now you can kind of see what I was going for here. So now there's that triangle behind. So now we have our circle that leads to this, that leads to this, and then this is where we want that line to go. We should have this geometric pleasing heart. Very nice. So now you'll see as we can even erase some of this in the middle here. Get rid of some of these lines that are taking up a lot of room here. I can get rid of all that. Actually, no. What I want, I might need that circle in the middle, actually. And then I'm going to go up here, and this circle goes through where it lines up. So I want this line, so that I can then do this. This to go up and around here so that I get, that's where that line meets. Okay, all right, now we got something here. So that's where that line goes. That's going to give us another one of those. That'll give us another one. Basically, instead of making the circles, we're just going around these points and making, see, like well, that one will line up with that one. And then this one will line up over here. And this one lines up there. Right, perfect. So, because we want there to be a lot of, so it's the up and down line, the straight across line, then there's the diagonals, and then there's just all of the other ones in between. So we have one, so it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So we want 8 lines going up and out of our heart. So how do we find those intersections? Let's see. Well, I could tell you already that we have this one. Now how do we separate it even more? There's going to be where these lines interact, which is where those two circles connected. So where that line goes, and where that one was. Yeah, so let's just do that again. So get this circle fully realized again. I realized I took away some of it, so we're not going to do that, in fact, because you're going to see where the circles intersect is where you're going to make another connection. So you go to the middle, and then you see where the circles connect here, and then where the circles interact there is another line. So you get those to line up. I'll start down at the bottom, and I'll just go from the heart out. there's another one of those lines we're going to need. So now we have this one, this one. We're going to go with, it should be the same. So, see where we made those lines. It's where the circles would intersect. I'm going to get that one as well. So go to the middle. Where those lines intersect is another one. Go to here. And then from here out. Okay, that'll be that one, that one, that one. And then we need another one. So we're up and down. We have 1, 2, 3, 4. So now we need more. We need separated out here, here. Now let's see where else that can intersect. All right, so then if we're playing with that, our circles are helpful. So if I put one here and I made my intersection there, oh, I didn't do the other side, that's why. Here's another one where that one and that one connect, right? Mm-mm. That should give us 1, and then that should give us 1. I'm double checking everything here because if I go through here, that one's there, then it goes through this side. This is not as smooth as I would have liked it. Right, we got that one. One there, so there's that, then that goes there, and that goes there, and that goes there, and that goes there. We did that one already. That one goes there, and then that one goes, oh, sorry. There, okay. So that should give us that other one. There we go. That makes more sense. Okay, so that gives us another one of our lines. Now we need to separate this out even more, which will give us, that's where this one goes. Yup, there we go. So you can see it's where those two circles intersected on the initial circle. That one. Okay. I think we almost have all of them now. And the second circle you drew, and you go over to that intersection there, and you draw from that point to here. That'll give us that intersection. And the same thing here. That's where that crosses. It's hard to see that one, but you can use this. It's that and that, so that's where that crosses. Very nice, got that one. Now we need to separate it even more, which means there's this one. Did that one already, so we have to find the one that separates it again. So if I went up to this, I went here, and then I created that, it would go to that spot, right? Bam. And then I would go over here, and I would make another one that separates it here, which goes through that spot. that spot to here, which creates that one, and then this one to here. To find that other intersection. Is it here to, yeah, there it is. So I put my point where that last circle was. There it is. So then it's, that one is, okay. And now we got to get these ones on the inside, right? So then it'll be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Missing one? Might be missing one. Let's get these two in the middle here. So I have to find the intersection that allows those to go outward. So I want, oh, there it is. It's right there. I don't have it on that side, so I'm just going to go with that. There's that one, and then this one is there. This is where I'm getting confused. Okay, this last one. It's always hard to get that. So we're playing with those intersections in the middle. I should have just drawn the seed of life from the very beginning. I see that now. That would have helped. But we're still playing here. So it would have been there, 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 to there. It's like here to here. It's where this circle intersects with this one. Okay, now I've got it. It's where that one intersects. There we go. Okay. I think we have all of them now. Feel like that is almost it. We're at a point where I feel like I can erase some of this, and then we'll start coming in with some ink. Make sure I'm happy with the spacing, and I think I am, honestly, other than the initial one. I think it's that one that's slightly off, because it's where that line goes should be a little bit closer, I think, to that. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to draw this one here and then down to here. And I think I like that more than the one that was there, which is this one. Yes. Cool. I think that's the concept. Feel pretty good about that. We went with the very general sense of it. And if we want to like really match this, we can also make this box down at the bottom that says love. And I think we might. And what I'll do is find If we want to draw that box at the bottom. Or, I think keep it like this. I like that it goes to the edges of the paper. So I'm going to go with that. So I'm going to continue the concept of my original heart, which I'm just going to add a little. Right, it goes to this. And I think it's where this goes into that. Just giving it a little bit more so it's not so jagged. Okay. Well, I think that gives me a general idea of what I'm looking for here. So, with all that, I hope that you're finding some stillness here as we go through the process, right? This is a process, but in a good way. Just like you get to watch a movie or listen to a song that you really like, you sit back and you get to do it. You get to enjoy. And especially if we're making the concept or the theme of love, it should be a labor of love, an action of kindness, right? Love is so much more than just, again, like romantic love. It's something that you feel towards something where you open with compassion, empathy, feeling something that other people feel, and it's more than, everybody. It's every song, movie, book has been trying to figure out how to convey what love is, right? And this is just another chance to play that game of what does this mean to me? What kind of love do I have in my life? What am I looking to cultivate? All of that should be the only thing that we ever really care about, or anything that we're trying to do. Hate is the thing that takes over most of the time. So what counters that, right? So let's see. Back to camera 2. It's my love thing, and I don't know if I'm going to add the thing on the bottom. I don't think so. I think I'm going to leave this very, very basic. So I'm just going to erase here my lines that do not serve. Trying to get rid of the excess lead so that when I go to add the ink, it's smooth and creates a nice clean look. And that's just my preference. You can leave the lead there and just ink over it. I think it works either way. When you use the geometry to try to find these things, it kind of speaks for itself as you see it, like after a while doing these types of drawings and things with sacred geometry, it becomes noticeable, right? That's the concept, is that sacred geometry is the patterns of the universe, the patterns of nature, the patterns of everything. So if a heart is just two circles together with a triangle, that's really all the shape is, then that's what we use to find it. The very basic of shapes, making up things that we consider, that's what it represents to us now. That's just what this shape has become. That's the meaning it's taken. So we've kind of said that this shape now with the two circles and the triangle kind of is love. And that's the thing we use when we give our, Valentine's Day cards, things like that. They'll have this shape. Getting rid of excess. I feel like maybe we can even do the We'll do the heart first, and then we'll do the lines. Okay. There. So it's going to be a little hard to see because I did erase. But what we'll do is we'll pull out our pen. And then what I want to do is normally I use the ruler. And I think this time I'm going to freehand all the lines. I think that's what I'm going to do to take my time with this concept. So the first thing I'm going to draw is the heart. So if we draw from the center, and breathe while we do it. Seeing if we can't find that sweet spot of noticing our breath, noticing our bodies, while creating, to find that flow state. So there's the beginnings of my heart. Have it go now to this point. Add that little bit of curve to it. And there it is. So that's how I ended up making my heart for the center here. As you see, it's 2 circles, and then we made the triangle, and so that's the way we made it. And I'll even kind of thicken that up a little bit. And then we'll get our lines going up and all the way into the center and through. I'm going to see about maybe changing this to a thicker. In fact, this is where I like to play a little bit with the different pens I have, just because I have them. So I'm going to play with this first straight line going up and down, but I might even thicken up the heart a little bit, so I'm going to give it some extra thickness here. This is just how I decided to do this. I'm not thinking too much about it. It just became this. I like having a little bit of, there we go. And I keep playing with the orientation of my paper. It's the way I like to do things. Some people like to tape their paper to the desk and work that way. Thickening it up a little bit here because I was. And take my time. Let's get this outer side a little bit more. There we go. There we go. Yeah, I feel better about that. Yeah, it's got a little messed up over here, but that's just how it goes sometimes. Now we're going to play with our lines. And this is an 03, 3. So I think we have our 5 here. Okay. So if that's in the center of our paper, we're going to make our lines up and down right from the center. And I just like to breathe in and out, noticing the way the ink goes on the paper. It's not going to be the most straight line in the world, but I think that's why I'm playing with it a little bit here, rather than using the ruler. If I can, I breathe. Sometimes you can get a nice smooth line if you exhale while you do it. So there's our line up and down. Maybe we can just turn it and do our horizontal. And precision is going to come just with patience and with taking your time. The slower you go, probably the better it will look. Then you have to play with the trick of if you go too slow, sometimes the ink kind of blot a little bit, so you have to move with rhythm, right? Going with the flow. That's our up and down and across, and now we'll start getting our diagonals. Just watching my breath as I go. I just want to make sure I'm with the one that I went with, which is this one is the one I want. And then, yeah, that's the one I want. That's the problem when you make a correction with pencil and then you erase all of it. You're like, oh wait, which was one I wanted to do? Not perfect, but that's okay. I'm going to keep trying to get this to go. Nothing draws your focus in more than trying to make a perfectly straight line. And I'm just going to take my time. However long it takes. I'm just playing. And I think that's the best part. As soon as I start to rush, my line gets messed up. I know it's time to pull back and slow down even more. Once you start to find your rhythm, you'll notice you can technically go faster as you go. But know that you're just finding your rhythm. Practice makes perfect, so we keep practicing. If you want to get better at something, you practice, right? If you want to practice, you have to have patience. That's what this stuff has taught me more than anything else. Creating a sense of patience is the best act of love. Being patient with that which you love. Breathing with your movement. So this is, in its sense, this is a very simple, simplistic piece of art. But I'm putting my love into it by taking my time. That's the difference. There's the difference between a good dish of food and a mediocre one. A good piece of art and a mediocre one. Is there a sense of love involved? That last part I kind of went off the page.
And this definitely ended up less like a mandala, but I think that we can also work with this later if we wanted to expand and change it. But for me, mandalas are circles and lines, and it's the repetition of doing the pattern that really creates the sense of, like I said, it's a focus, it's a flow state, it's one-pointedness. It's time. Time spent noticing what you can notice and enjoying what you can enjoy.
That's it. There's our love card, hand-drawn with love. Simple. Sometimes the simple things are the best, right? So making it super complicated and having all these different interweaving patterns and everything like that is tons of fun. But sometimes you just want to draw a simple heart with some lines, and that's it. That was my Therapeutic Thursday for this week. I hope that it brought you some sense of one-pointedness, maybe a sense of love, maybe something that's worth thinking about and working on and contemplating and all that stuff. So thank yourself for showing up if you sat here and drew with me. I made it a little bit more complicated in the beginning, and look how simple it is in the end. And sometimes that's the best part. And I'm happy. I'm happy with these lines. Like, they're not the best, but they're pretty good. So I could keep working on it and get better and better. And hopefully that's how it works. Thank you. Hope you have a good rest of your day. If this is Thursday when you do this, rest of your Thursday, rest of your week and all that. Happy Therapeutic Thursday. And we'll see you again. Another